Yeah, a day like no other in the UEFA Champions League. Time for comprehensive coverage now. The final round of matches in the league phase of Europe's Premier Club competition ended just a short while ago with all 36 teams in action across 18 matches. Let's have a look at the full match day results then. Manchester City coming from behind to beat Club Brugge by 3-1. Stuttgart losing to PSG 4-1, 2-2 between Barcelona and Atalanta. Lamine Yamal among the scorers there for Barcelona. Aston Villa 4-2 over Celtic. Bayer Leverkusen 2-0 over Sparta Prague. Bayern Munich 3-1 over Bratislava. Borussia Dortmund 3-1 as well over Shakhtar Donetsk. Brest getting well beaten 3-0 by Real Madrid. Rodrigo getting a double there. Jude Bellingham also on the score sheet. Dinamo Zagreb 2-1 over AC Milan. Benfica 1-0 over Juventus. Lille hammering Feyenoord by 6-1. PSV getting a 3-2 win over Liverpool. Liverpool ending that game with 10 men. RB Salzburg losing 4-1 to Atletico Madrid. 1-0 between Sporting and Bologna. Sturm Graz 1-0 over RB Leipzig. Young boys, well, they were taken care of by Sraveda. Girona losing 2-1 to Arsenal. Jorginho and Wanieri on the score sheet for Arsenal, and Inter Milan 3-0 over Monaco. Now, the 2023 champions Manchester City entered today's final match day, needing a win in order to make it into the knockout phase. This is how it all happened.
It's not just about Manchester City, but it is win or bust for the home side. Ecuadorian defender conspired to give it away there, Brugge, and couldn't resist letting fly there, Phil Foden. Is he going to have a crack? Well, he certainly is. Great run, Gundogan, excellent block by Mekela. Bringing it clear is Hans-Man Akin. So Jutlia, oh, he's done really well against Mateus Nunes there. And he's crossed it brilliantly. What a goal that is! Onyedika has given Club Brugge the lead to stun this stadium. Corner taken quickly to Kevin De Bruyne. Oh, great ball! And it's wide! Kovacic. Brilliant run from Kovacic! Oh, a superb equaliser for Manchester City. He ran and ran, and no one tackled him. And he placed it in the bottom corner. Oh, they could be in again on the break. The runner is Talby. It's Zolis. Zolis wants to take it on. Kovacic, Gvardiol. Manchester City desperate for a second goal. Savinho, Gvardiol. Oh, it's an own goal! Of Ordóñez! And Manchester City have turned it around to lead. What a noise around the stadium. Have Manchester City rescued their Champions League season here? Mekela. Yashari under pressure. Haaland has pinched it. Chance. Brilliant save. And a clearance off the line. Stones, fabulous ball. Savinho. Huge goal for Manchester City. It will surely keep them in the UEFA Champions League.
That's it. They are through.
Manchester City keep their Champions League dreams alive. The 2023 winners were made to fight here by...
Yeah. This is how the final table looks following today's 18 matches in the UEFA Champions League. Despite losing, Liverpool still top, 21 points. Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen, Lille and Aston Villa are the A to qualify automatically for the quarter-finals. Then positions 9 through 16, Atalanta, Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, AC Milan, PSV, PSG and Benfica. Those will be the seeded teams for the round of 16. And then their challengers will be Monaco, Brest, Feyenoord, Juventus, Celtic, yes, Manchester City, 11 points, believe it or not. But they're there. Sporting, the team that Ruben Amorim left from Manchester United, they are there as well. And Club Brugge, despite today's defeat, they make it in to the next phase of this competition. We have called upon the expertise of Brent Sancho, former Trinidad and Tobago international defender and now SportsMax ace analyst. Brent, welcome again to the SportsMax Zone. I'll start here. We've had conversations about this new league phase, this new format of the Champions League. We've had the opportunity to see the first phase now. Now is the time, Brent, to give us a definitive answer as to whether you liked it or not, and why or why not.
I would certainly give it a thumbs down.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, look, when UEFA announced this new format, it was billed as this new every game matters and everything count. And I think after the third or fourth game, I was wondering, okay, where does this point lie? Well, what does this mean? I mean, if you put that up against what we're used to in the group stages and some of the ties that we've had in the group stages and possibilities, I may lean towards that any day. I just feel that it was a bit too all over the place. Yes, I enjoyed some of the matchups. They were more evenly teamed matchups, I would say, in this format. But I feel that it didn't really amount to what was promised by UEFA, and that's what I'm using as my measuring stick.
And the final day of the league phase, today's final day, where you had a number of permutations, Manchester City flirting with elimination, that did not make up for what you just suggested in terms of the lack of consistent drama throughout the first phase.
Yeah, I would say so. Outside of the Manchester City situation, you really didn't have any major subplots coming into it. A lot of who we would have expected to get into the knockout phases made it through. And when you look at the teams that have been eliminated, you would struggle really to find anyone that you could put your finger on and suggest maybe they underperform. But that being said, Ricardo, as you know, and what has not changed with this competition, it's called the business end. And now we get to the business end. And I think that will stay the same, because that's really where the Champions League comes to life. And that's where teams that probably didn't do particularly well in the group stages start to show their championship quality. And you just wonder if a team like Manchester City and, of course, Real Madrid, who ended up out of the teams that would have gone to the round of 16, can they now come to life?
Yeah, let's talk about Manchester City, because as you pointed out, they needed to win today to get into the playoff round, essentially. And they did just that. Even though they went behind, you have to give them a lot of credit, because they beat a team that had not lost in 20 matches, and that was not lost on Pep Guardiola coming into this contest. But talk to me about how Manchester City were able to rally today and get the result needed to advance in this competition.
Yeah, it's amazing, Ricardo. I think if you'd asked any one of us a year or so ago if Manchester City needed a result against Club Brugge at home, if they would be head-scratching and the maybes. And certainly once Club Brugge went ahead, that's exactly what transpired. It's a team that's void of confidence, Manchester City, but give them credit. Second half, and particularly through Savinho, they showed a lot of life. They showed a lot of promise, and they showed a lot of endeavour. Albeit, I must say that you did feel during the course of the game that Club Brugge would have had an opportunity in transition, in counter, because they looked dangerous in that set. I think from a Pep Guardiola standpoint, he would just be happy with the results. I think for now, he's not too concerned about the way his team is playing. He just wants to get them winning again. And this was a massive victory for Manchester City.
Yeah, and what was so important is Pep Guardiola, having his tactics play a very important role, because in the second half, the way in which he set up, he stopped John Stones from pushing up as high. Then, of course, Club Brugge had less people in the middle, and that, of course, gave Manchester City the advantage, because now they had more space, Brent, to go about and get these goals. And what stood out for me as well is the goal scorers. It's not the regular suspects, but of course, you know, different players stepping up today, and it shows the depth of the team when they really come to the party. I don't know what has been happening throughout the season, but it was so good to see that from the team today, and especially in the second half.
Yeah, I think tactically he got it right. As you rightfully mentioned, he was able to play in the half spaces, or allow now for his midfielders to collect the ball in the half space. And I think more importantly from Manchester City perspective, horizontally, which I think they've had their challenge, they were able to stretch the game. In particular, as I just mentioned, Savinho, who was one of the goal scorers. They just haven't found the sort of joy and real quality out of their wide players for most of the season. They've really struggled to find that. I think today we saw bits and signs of it. As it relates to Manchester City on a whole, I just think a lot of the players that we have come to expect to deliver for Manchester City is just not delivering. Whether it's Bernardo Silva, whether it's Ilkay Gundogan, I think that experiment has failed miserably. And maybe I could even point to Kevin De Bruyne, albeit there is a caveat there that he's had his fair share of injuries. The point is, the players that we're used to, that Pep Guardiola is used to, the Manchester City fans are used to, that normally deliver for them, it's not happening this season. And hence the reason you're seeing the slide that we're seeing for City.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, you know, if we thought, Brent, that today was, you know, pulling on straws, and of course the Manchester City supporters were on the edge of their seats, news, of course, being reported by the BBC that City will either play Real Madrid or Bayern Munich in the playoffs. And again, that would be another matchup, a matchup that, you know, we'd be on the edge for if Manchester City doesn't get their act together.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You know, every week we look at Manchester City and we think to ourselves, maybe they're back to their best. They're getting there, they're inching back. But it goes back to the point I just made. I just feel that the players that normally deliver big time for them, they're big time players, they're match winners. They don't have it in them anymore. I know it's for me, it sounds like a very damning statement, but it's what I have arrived watching them throughout the season, because I'm not seeing them get out of the blocks. I've seen, you know, incremental improvements with other players around the park. But when you look at those big three that I mentioned earlier, they just have not been able to perform at the level, I must add, that we're used to seeing from them. And that because of that, there's a complete void of confidence throughout the team. And you add all of that together, it's just very difficult to see a Manchester City turn things around as quickly as it would need to turn it around to beat Real Madrid or to beat Bayern Munich.
But then again, you know, if I were to really be fair, Real Madrid also, when we talk about the Champions League, they are the champions of the Champions League. And the thing is, Brent, we always say that Real Madrid have some separate category that they are in when it comes to the Champions League, right? It's like you have to fear them in this competition, even if they're not playing good in La Liga, even if they're not playing good in any other competition. It's like they come to life in the Champions League. And I mean, the number of Champions League they have won speaks for itself. But this season, Real Madrid wasn't even that good either, because they're also into the playoffs. I mean, they didn't scrape into the playoffs like we had to today, but they're also in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a saying in Trinidad, as you would know, Mariah, big side is big side. And I think when it comes to...
But City is a big side, did you forget?
We're talking Champions League here, and there's no bigger side in the Champions League than Real Madrid. And certainly you feel, and of course when you look at Real Madrid in comparison to Manchester City, there is signs of improvement. There is now a Kylian Mbappe who's finding the score sheet a little bit more regular. There is a Jude Bellingham who seemingly is getting a little bit more used to his new role and his new function within the squad. There's that man there in the picture, Rodrigo, who still has room to improvement and is showing signs of that. And of course, there's Vinny Jr., who we know can turn things on. So when you look at that, and then you look at the Manchester City picture, as I said, as dominant as they saw, I just don't see that from the Silvas and the Gundogan and the De Bruynes. I just don't think they could pull out the big games that we're used to seeing from them. So if I'm a betting man, which I'm not because I normally use Ricardo's money, I would suggest that Real Madrid is probably a touch ahead of Manchester City, despite the fact that both clubs are having an unusually poor season.
Yeah, and you know, another team that I'm really very proud of, and I feel like we need to spend some time on, because from my time being here at SportsMax would be almost 6 years, whenever we talked about Barcelona, and it's the opposite for Real Madrid now, even if they're winning La Liga at that point in time, they go into the Champions League and it's like, you know, it's a whole different team, nothing to really talk about, nothing to fear. But Barcelona is second on the table. And I mean, brilliant performances. You have to give them that. They have shown their quality this season in the Champions League.
Yeah, they've shown they've certainly shown their quality, and more importantly, Mariah, they've been consistent in this competition. Not like the La Liga where they've had their pitfalls. But when you get into the business end of the season, over a two-game knockout series, it's difficult for me to suggest that Barcelona are the favourites coming into it, because I just feel that they still have flaws within their game, flaws that we've seen in some of the defeats that they had in La Liga, flaws that we know that if teams like an Inter Milan, who's very dogged in the way they defend, and a Benfica, those sorts of teams that are very difficult to break down and don't give Barcelona the space in behind, they will struggle. I think they will find their difficulties. That being said, as I said, Barcelona and what they've done, their body of work and what they've done so far in the Champions League has been very, very good. The question is, can they keep that consistency going into the knockout stages when they will come up against teams that have the capabilities of making life very difficult for them?
Yeah, Brent, I'm looking at the top 8. I know we're just into the first phase, or completing the first phase of the UEFA Champions League, but I'm seeing 3 English teams there: Liverpool, Arsenal and Aston Villa. And although City aren't there, many people consider City as one of the best teams in Europe. I remember when we started the SportsMax Zone back in 2011, it was widely felt that La Liga was the best league in Europe. Of course, Cristiano Ronaldo was still at Real Madrid and Messi playing for Barcelona and so on. And I don't think there was much debate there. But can we say in recent years that the English Premier League has surpassed La Liga for quality and just attractiveness overall as a league in Europe?
I think certainly the EPL is a lot more competitive than La Liga. I think there are a lot more teams that, and Aston Villa is a prime example of that, that could step into Europe and fill big shoes. And if you look at the Premiership all the way through, I think if you drop some of the mid-table teams, they will compete very well in a lot of the leagues around the world. Of course, La Liga is known for Real Madrid and Barcelona, and of course, to a lesser extent, Atletico Madrid. And those 3 teams could compete very well in the EPL. So when you look at it from a whole and a total perspective, lads, I would have to say yes, the EPL certainly is a much, much more competitive league, which would have to turn to the point that the quality throughout the teams in the EPL is a lot better collectively in a whole, in numbers-wise, than it is in many leagues in the world.
Yeah, and as we talk about Liverpool, the top team domestically at the moment in England, but suffering I guess you would say a surprise loss to PSV today by 3-2. Not a match that carried a lot of you know, weight because Liverpool were safe. But how do you read that result?
Yeah, I think it's the kind of result you would expect with a team that's home and safe and knows they're already into the round of 16. And I must say, lads, I'm really impressed with Liverpool. I've looked at what they've done in the EPL. I'm looking at them in the Champions League. And it's a while that I can look at a Liverpool team and suggest that they ain't a lot of flaws. They ain't a lot of things that you could pick at and suggest that these are deficiencies that may come up and haunt them later on in the future. They've looked a complete package for most of the season. They've been very consistent in their body of work. And more importantly, they've been winning games and winning games convincingly. And if I was to pick a favourite or was to pick a team that I think should be there and thereabouts, I would suggest it's Liverpool, because they have been good throughout the season. They have a very good squad. There's depth there. And they have a manager that I think has adapted very well to Liverpool and adapted very well to the culture and the expectations of a club of that magnitude.
Yeah, and just 10 seconds, Brent. Arsenal 2-1 over Girona today, and you know, just cementing their spot as a top 8 team in the UEFA Champions League.
Yeah, cementing their spot. I must say I'm a little bit disappointed in Girona and their, of course, work in the Champions League. But certainly Arsenal will be there as well. Again, a team that I feel is void of a player or two, particularly in the striking options. I think if they are to find that forward in the transfer market, which looks highly unlikely, they could challenge. So I do feel, yes, they will compete, but I don't see them going all the way.
Yeah, well, Brent, Manchester City, they made it through. And pretty much all the big guns are through. One of the criticisms of this UEFA Champions League format is that essentially it rewards, in a way, a sense of mediocrity, because it's very, very difficult once you're a decent team not to make it through into the final 24 to at least be in the playoffs, and pretty much that is what we saw here. Maybe if it was just a straight 16, there would be even more drama, but maybe it is that UEFA does not want to lose their best teams before they get into the knockout phase. Brent, as usual, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll be chatting again soon for sure.
All right, guys, have a great one.
All right.
You're really happy for
Brent
me, yeah?
Sancho.
I heard it just now when you said, like, Manchester City are in. Ricardo is a great co-worker. He's just always happy for me. Break time.